Hey, Mama. Welcome to Mom is Ministry, the podcast where motherhood meets calling. I'm Mercedes, and every week we talk real life, real faith, and what it means to raise kids while following Jesus. Let's get into it. Okay, welcome back to a new episode of Mom is Ministry. I am joined today with Dr. Isha. I am so glad you're here. We got it together. We got it together. So today I'm going to be speaking with her about navigating seasons. I'm going to tell a little bit about yourself to start off a little bit so people can understand who you are a little bit, what you do. And today, like I said, we're talking about navigating seasons, how we're going to, or how we have been navigating them spiritually, practically, and emotionally. And I think you can help me speak to that for sure. Um, Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do, other than being a mom.
First and foremost, I'm a mother. No drama. About myself and what I do. So what I will say is that currently we're talking about navigating season. So I won't say that I'm in a period of transition, but I'm in a period of welcoming in a new season. So I'm associate professor at Georgia State University. I just got tenure last year, which really solidified my position in academia. But as I was telling you before we started talking on the recording, I recently accepted a position with the American Psychological Association where I'll be able to focus on implementing EDI throughout all of psychology. So I'm really excited to be in kind of this period of transition to where I'm able to really establish myself beyond kind of the research that I've been doing for a couple decades now and really just take that expertise and, like I said, hopefully implement change throughout psychology for everyone. So that's kind of what I do in terms of my professional world, is that I focus on, I said EDI, so that's equity, diversity, and inclusion. So all things related to really just helping marginalized groups experience access in psychology as well as outside of psychology. So those folks who are not engaged in mental health treatment, really helping them receive the benefits of that through the public and through community work that I do.
So let's get into it a little bit. So when you think of navigating seasons, what does that mean for you and where you have been in life and where you are currently?
Mm. Where I have been, so when I hear seasons, I just think about transitions, right? Like I know even currently we're in the winter, depending on where you are, it's very cold and it might have been very warm previously. There's a quote that I love that just says that the fall teaches us and winter teaches us the beauty of letting dead things go. So when I think about navigating those transitions and those different seasons, I really just think about, just stepping into new positions, letting go of old things, and really, when I say things, that could be old experiences, old plans that you had for yourself. Whew. I know when I entered grad school, this was almost 2 decades ago, I sat down with my mentor at the time and I had a chart that I showed her. And on one side it said I was going to academically, right, defend my thesis, propose my dissertation, pass my comps. I was going to get my PhD. I had it all laid out in a timeline. And on the other side it said I was single at the time. I'm going to find a man. I'm going to get engaged. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have a baby. And it was all lined up with all these different milestones. And let me tell you, by the time I was defending my thesis and getting my master's, I came to her. I had shaved my head bald. I had broken up with the guy who I met in grad school. I had gone through just so many changes that were, not according to my plan, but according to God's plan for me. So when I think about, just navigating seasons, when you say think about where you have been, like grad school was such a hard time for me, but it really helped shape me into the person that I am today. So I'm really grateful for those different transitions that even I wasn't expecting, but definitely needed to really get me where I am today.
Yeah, I understand that because you have a plan like that. Like they always say, you write a plan out and God laughs at it, but at the end of the day, it always ends up working out. And then it's hindsight because you always see like, okay, I understand why that happened the way it
Oh
happened.
my
So
gosh,
usually it's like,
yes.
thank God that happened, like,
Ooh, if I was still with that man, oh Lord, life would look so much different. It would not be as good as it is now. It's like, God, thank you for protecting me from what I thought I needed because
Yes.
I
And
wanted
that's
it
what
at
they
the
say
time,
too.
but
Like a lot of times, like what seems like rejection is like God's redirection, or and
yeah,
protection
and
also.
protection, Lord. Yes,
Yes,
exactly.
because you just like you said, life just would not be this good, Like, and I've had those experiences myself, and it's like it might have seemed crazy, and that's what sometimes it even makes people hard for them to understand why you are how you feel about a situation that you feel about, because it's like you don't understand. Like it might look from the outside in that, oh, that happened, that's oh so sad. Like, mm, yeah, but
Trust me,
also
I'm good. I'm better
yeah,
off.
trust me, I'm I'm great, honestly. Like, yeah, like I get it. Like, yeah, the way it happened probably wasn't the best, but the fact that it did makes all the difference. So, yeah. So speaking of that too, so about redirection and what seems like rejection. So, has there been a time where, like, what it seems like it was a distraction or rejection from God or just in life in general, but you see now that it got you to a place? Is there anything in particular you can think about that's like, okay, I thought this was rejection, and you not only that, but you had to be obedient, and that obedience was uncomfortable. That obedience made you uncomfortable, but you had to get through it, and you came out on the other side.
Yeah, I'll say that, I'm very fortunate that academically and professionally, I've never had a rejection or what would even be perceived as a failure. I have always just put my head down and done my work like my grandmother told me to. And for some reason,
Hmm.
I've just always succeeded in those ways. But certainly, oh, yeah, let me talk about my grandmother. So while she was telling me to put my head down and do my work, I did all of that. And, it was also don't follow boys, don't get in relationships until one day I looked up and everyone was asking me, okay, why weren't you married? But definitely, I would say that kind of the redirection and the perceived failures for me came in my personal life to where, like I said, on the other side of that column, it was, husband, this. None of that happened. None of
Right there
that
with
happened.
you. Yes.
Ever, ever, ever. So I can remember a couple of pivotal times where there were either breakups or even myself when I became pregnant, right? I always thought that I would be the one in my family to break the chains of single motherhood or to break the chains of having children without wedlock. And God said, aha, you think you're better than them. Let me show you. You're going to experience this and still experience the beauty and the glory of what I have prepared for you. So initially, when I experienced a breakup, when I even found out that I was pregnant, both of those things made me feel like, ooh, I'm not living up to what God has in store for me, or I failed in some way. But again, both of those experiences have shown me that one, life with my little baby is so beautiful. It's not what I imagined. It's not the family, right, that I always imagined. But he himself is my family. And God, right, I'm seeing as my father, but he has become like a partner to me. And that for me, I've realized like, stop relying on these men to come save you. You need to realize that you are already saved. You are already called.
You're
You do have your
already
family.
saved.
You
Yes.
are fulfilled in these ways. I used to always say, oh, I'm waiting on Superman. I'm waiting on Superman. And one day I said, girl, nobody's going to save you. And it's really been like me realizing that I am fulfilled through God and I don't need to be out here searching for some man or for some husband. And even with that, right? Just thinking about our biological clocks, he was like, okay, girl, here you go. You can have this little baby you've always
Yeah,
wanted. So I
that's
do
how it was
know.
for me too. Like, okay, here go this baby. That's what you got.
Please.
You wanted that baby, bam, there you go.
Yeah, and even with that, right, like we're coming to realize you've talked to me about Piper, and certainly I can talk to you about Roman, and just to say, like, oh my God, he is so perfect and so fulfilling, and I have no needs. I have nothing that I feel like that I'm missing out on. And he has his family, my mom, my dad, my sister, his cousins. We're all so fulfilled and so happy. And I think that if I hadn't have let go of that, dream and thinking, oh, I need to stay with this person despite all these signs and signals, and no, baby, you need to let that go, I would be
Yeah.
miserable right now. So I definitely thank God for that. that I'll call it a forced transition because I promise I didn't want it. But once at some point it becomes like, okay, girl, you're single.
Yes. No, I
You're a
completely
single
relate
mom.
to that.
You have to.
Yes, I relate to that completely because it's been pretty much the same for me. Like it was from the beginning for the most part, it was just like, okay, it's going to be just you and this baby. And that's really where my journey being close to God really started, honestly, because it was just us. Like that was all, we had. And looking back, it's like, like I was saying, like how how I see rejection is God's protection, because it's like if I was still in that situation, I would certainly not be in the place I am. Like I am so in tune with God. I'm raising my baby in church, I was never raised that way.
Wow.
I'm working leadership in church, and it's like you knew me 3 years ago, and I told you I was in leadership in church. You would not, you like woohoo. But so it's just like some people always ask me all the time, like, how you even deal with that? And you're not upset, you're not mad. I'm like, I'm honestly not. I'm
Yeah, you can't
honestly
be.
not. We have a beautiful little life, and it gets hard and it's overwhelmed. Like I function in overstimulation, it seems, but also though it's like it's a little selfish part of me. It's kind of like I'm glad she's all mine. Like
Yes, yeah. And you can
I don't
focus
have
on her and raising her instead of trying
I
to
don't
fix
have
the
to share her.
relationship
I
or
don't have to
raising
get
some
other
man.
opinions. Yes, I don't get
Yeah.
other opinions, other insight, and somebody doesn't get to come in part time and shift what we've already curated and our piece and everything. I mean, and I still believe that I'm going to get married. I still have those hopes, and
Amen.
I know this is something
Amen.
God
Amen.
has for me, and I just know that when that person comes along, he's going to love her as his own, and
Amen.
it's going to fit, into the life that God's already made for me. It's going to fit to because I feel like now I'm in a point where God wants me to be. Then before I had her, I was not, obviously. And if I would have stayed in that situation, I still wouldn't be. It would have been very service. I would have had all the things and stuff like that, but there wouldn't have been this peace with God. It wouldn't have been this connection, this like joy, that I can't describe most days. So I completely get that. It's just like, here this is where I am, and it's hard to explain sometimes if people who haven't been there or aren't there.
Or
So it
people who
gives
chose
you
differently. No disrespect, no, smoke for people
yeah,
who
and
chose
I
to
get
stay and
that,
fight and make
yeah.
it work. But yeah, I'd rather fight on, working with my little kiddo than somebody who's working against me the whole time.
Exactly. And like I tell people that all the time, like, like people are always trying to like, oh well, she'll have trauma from not having it. I'm like, I don't think so. Like I feel like what I feel, my personal opinion, what I've learned over time and what I've seen is that having two people who are constantly bickering, never agreeing, and all that, that's probably a little more traumatizing than my when I had her. I was in the hospital because I was just by myself. It was COVID too, so I was all alone in the hospital. My nurse told me one thing that stuck with me. She was like, her mom was a single mom too. And she was like, let me tell you. She was like, my mom was a single mom. And what I remember most, we had the cutest little 2 bedroom house, and I ate what I wanted for dinner every night. And that stuck. And I'm like, exactly. That's me and my
I
daughter.
don't have to worry about nobody else. Yeah.
We have our little 2 bedroom townhouse, and she eats whatever she wants to eat for dinner because it's just us. I have a girl dinner. We having girl dinner every night over here if we want to. So that kind of like stuck with me. So yeah, I completely agree. It turned out better than you imagine, I'm
Better
sure.
than you imagine. Yes.
Yes.
Love that.
So, another thing too, I know you were talking about how you just got tenure at the university and you're taking on a new position. So, how does rest look like for you? Because that's something that I have been intentional about lately and kind of been convicted on to is resting. Because you always say like, I don't have time to rest, but I've learned it's literally a commandment. Like he commands us to rest. So, how does that look for you?
Yeah, so again, what I'll say is that God knows what I need and He forces it even when I'm not ready for it. So before I had Roman, right before COVID actually, I got a kidney infection. And that's because I never rested. I was overworked. I was overstimulated, like you said. I was trying to do everything on my own. And God said, ma'am, you're going to sit down. I got this kidney infection, and when I came back to work, I realized I have to learn how to start delegating. I have to learn how to start utilizing my staff, grad students. I have a ton of people who work for me, but I was never really making them do any work. I was going to all the meetings that we had. I wasn't letting them lead any meetings, our community outreach. I was doing everything on my own. All the research I was trying to just do. Once I had that kidney infection, I started to really start practicing delegating and facilitating and using that to set boundaries and to allow myself to just step back and let the work that I have done leading up to that really work for itself. And I definitely think that by the time Roman was coming, they had already known, like, okay, we need to protect Dr. Metzger. So I had a team who was really good at helping me rest. They wouldn't let me apply for any more grants. They said, when's the deadline? We're going to write it. You can just revise it and then we'll submit it. Different things like that that have allowed me, definitely academically and professionally, to rest have been protecting myself, setting boundaries, and letting, I guess, the work that I've done start working for itself.
That's good.
So I don't, lead my meetings on my own anymore. I have my senior grad students lead them. They check in with me when they need, but they're at the top of the chain, at the food chain. So people know, check with them before you check with Dr. Metzger. Go to her, if something's on fire and if you've already tried to put out the fire on your own. So that has
If the building's
allowed me
not
really
crumbling.
to.
Yeah.
Right. Let me know when it's falling down and then I can come do what I need to do. But otherwise, please do not bother me. And that
Yes.
definitely allows me to rest and to, really pour my energy and my time into what's important in this season of my life, which is Roman, because he's only going to be small for so long.
I know it's crazy. They are just small for so long, and every birthday is like they just turn to a whole new kid. Like I said,
Yeah.
Piper's 4, and every time I look up, she's a brand new kid. So, how do you recognize moments? How do you like distinguish moments between like pausing and pushing? Like what triggers you, or what signs do you see or feel that tells you, okay, like now I need a pause, or even though something's shifting, like I might need to push in this moment.
Yeah, I think really just checking in with myself, staying prayerful, checking in with God, and making sure, right, if I'm feeling uncomfortable about something, that's either a pause or a stop. If I'm
Hmm.
feeling burnt out, that means that I need to delegate or I need to let it go completely. But if I'm, invigorated by things, I could do a ton of work and pull all nighter, and I'm invigorated because that means that I need to be pushing right now. But if I'm falling asleep at my desk or getting frustrated and snappy at people, that probably means, you know what? This is
You need to
something
pull
that you
back.
need to pull back and give to somebody else. So definitely just checking in with myself. How hard is it for me to return to baseline? Do I feel motivated or am I frustrated, or right, do I feel burnt out and exhausted, or am I invigorated? And I really just allow that to take me in the direction of how much effort I'm putting into things. I love to delegate now, baby. So certain things, if I feel like, okay, this needs to pause, but the work actually cannot pause, I'll just give it to somebody else. But
Yeah.
in those times where it's like, no, girl, you need to push, just get this publication out or just get this grant submitted, and it'll take more work to help them figure out what to do than to just do it yourself. I'll get invigorated and I'll get that work done. But
Hmm.
definitely it's a moment of, when I'm doing my daily meditation or my daily prayer or my daily devotional in the morning, I'll check in and I'll say, Lord, just guide me for today. Guide my lips, guide my footsteps, guide my hands in the work that I do. And I'll just go in that direction. And certainly if it feels, that feeling of angst inside of you. If I start to feel uneasy, I'm going to pause. I'm going to let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that for sure. I've definitely had to learn how to delegate. And aside from delegating, I've learned how to sometimes say no. Like, no, I can't do that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
always like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. And for me, it's been like having to be like, oh, no, I can't do that actually. Or I can, but I can't do it right now. Like, I can do that later, or I can do that tomorrow, whatever. But yeah, just being able to just kind of shift instead of just like having to do it all. Like, you don't have to do it all. Like, I think sometimes when you're like, and I know you definitely understand this because you're a high achiever, that just because you can do it all doesn't mean you need to. And I'm kind of one of those people who I know how I can figure out how to do almost anything, but that doesn't mean I need to do it. So I've
Ooh, I
definitely had to
love
learn how to do
that.
it.
I love that. I'm still
Yeah.
not that good at saying no. I'm always like, let me figure out somebody else who could do that for you. How do you decide when it's a no versus a delegate or a you even said a pause. Let me do that tomorrow.
Yeah, because it's just kind of like, I mean, a little bit like what you said too. Like if I'm feeling like anxious about it, or it's just too much, or I look at what I already have to do, sometimes you can't get to everything, and especially when you becoming a mom, I know it's, you probably always been this way, but especially with a mom, you have to plan a lot, and sometimes like my pastor who I also work under on her staff is that she is very intentional, and it's like part of our guidelines we have to have a Sabbath. She's very like, we're off one day a week, and even if she knows, like, like we have other jobs we do as well, so she's like, I know you can't, but like she's very pushing on that, because even when we're going through things or I come to her sometimes, she's like, have you rested? And I'm like, oh, well. And she's like, well, okay, that's your problem. You need to rest. And what she
Hmm.
said to me one time that really stuck with me was that she says rest is an act of faith. Like you have to have faith in order to rest. Because when you don't rest,
Mm.
it's almost like you're telling God that you don't need him to do this.
And you need
Like
to be in control, right?
yes, yeah, it's like almost saying like, like I don't need, like, how can God step in when you don't step out ever, So you have to have the faith that things are still going to happen for me and
They're
still going
gonna
to
be
flow.
okay, right?
They're going to be okay if I just rest, So I've been, and you kind of feel bad some days because like we have our church, we have church on Saturdays, because we're looking for a permanent building right now, so we have church on Saturdays instead. So I actually get Sundays to like fully rest now because we do so much on Saturday, not only just being in church but having to put it on and everything. So I actually get to rest on Sundays, and it took me a little while to get with it, honestly, because it's like I'm laying here in bed and I'm doing nothing, and it just feels like I should be doing something, but
Right.
why
Wow.
not? Like, yeah, like you don't always have to do something. You can lay down and watch a show. You don't have to always be working or working on something. You can literally just rest. So I think, yeah, just looking at what, and then I don't, and then also too, I noticed when I didn't say no to things, I wouldn't do them in excellence. Like I would get it done, but it wasn't done how it could have been done. So
Hmm.
sometimes just, and then people won't, and people don't, people, and then see part two is like, you don't want to make people upset or disappoint anybody, but people understand because what I realize is they'll say no, like they will
People don't
say
have any
no.
problem telling you no, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they will say no. So, okay, I should do the same. So yeah, that's kind of how I've been realizing when to rest because you have to,
Yeah.
and I've realized things have kind of been going better since I've done that. Like I realize in those moments of rest, I feel better, function better. I'm a better mom, like you can't function in burnout, and we try to a lot, but it doesn't work for any of us, whether we think so or not. You think you're highly getting things done, and more than likely, you're probably not doing them great. You're
To
just
your highest
doing and not.
standard, right?
So, when let's talk about like, so we were just talking about how like where I have to go push or to pause. I know we have in those times, not only in moments, those happen like in seasons. Like you'll have a season of just acceleration and you'll also have a season of stillness. I think honestly, I just came out of a season of stillness. And it's crazy and it kind of sucks because I spent a lot of that season trying to be accelerating, I think, feeling like
You're
I'm
fighting
not doing.
against it.
Yeah, I'm like, I always feel like I feel lazy. I feel like I don't have anything to do because I'm not working like in corporate anymore, really. So like, although I'm do things, I'm not going to work. So when you're so used to that and then you're not, it's like, well, I feel like I'm not doing enough. Like my days, like I woke up this morning and I didn't have anything to do till 12 o'clock, or this day I had nothing to do, and it's just like feeling like I didn't take advantage of it how I should have. And one of my best friends told me, she was like, like you're in a season. She kind of told me you're in a season of stillness because like your God's letting you rest right now because what He's about to give you and what He's about to pull you into, you're not going to have the same time to rest. You know, like it's going to be blessings, but you're going to have to work. You're going to have to do things. So, you know, enjoy this season, like take advantage of it, you know, like you deserve to rest, you know, you're not a lazy person, you've worked all your life, so like
Right.
take
Wow.
take the time and do it. So with that, how do you function? Have you ever had, first of all, have you ever had a season of stillness versus a season of acceleration, and how do you navigate either one?
Yeah, I would say that I've had both accelerated seasons where I feel like everything is go, 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 and I'm seeing the results of all the work that I've done. But I've also had those seasons of not only forced stillness, but chosen stillness where I feel like, okay, you worked twice as hard, and why were you doing all this work? You did this work so that you can rest twice as much. So, absolutely, right before Roman, actually, and before even the COVID and the kidney infection, I had taken a season of stillness, which is probably why I came back and was working so hard. But I was going on vacation, I was carnival jumping, I was going on solo trips and solo travel to the point where people started looking at me like, "Lady, do you work anymore? Like, what is going on in your life?" But definitely, I took those times to really just rest and restore myself and to pour in those things that it, people might say selfishly were pleasing to me, but you know, even during those times, I was making sure that again, I was checking in with myself, I was checking in with my purpose, I was rewarding myself for all of the work that I have done. So I really think that just, you know, that self check in, that being in tune with not only myself, but with God, and just saying, lead my footsteps in this time. And those trips that I was going on, those opportunities were just coming to me. And they were things that I would be, you know, foolish not to take myself up on or to take other people up on. Even one of the solo trips, I call it a solo trip because I didn't go with anyone who I knew, but I went with a colleague of mine who we had done a bunch of research together and we had always talked about traveling together. And Yacht Week East Africa came out with a trip to the Seychelles, and we messaged each other like, "Girl, we never had the money to afford this and we never had the time to do this, but should we do this right now?" We said yes. And we went on Yacht Week, never having met each other in person. We were on a boat
Mm,
together for almost 2 weeks. And that for me was a period of, I didn't take my computer. I was in either faculty or postdoc position. I can't remember, but I had responsibilities that
yeah.
I paused for that time. So definitely just checking in and taking those opportunities as they come. I always say, God knows what I need, and that is truly to say He's going to present certain opportunities for me in certain seasons that otherwise wouldn't come up, and He's going to make it possible in ways that if she called me right now talking about, yeah, we can East Africa, baby, that's not possible. I have a whole kid, right? Like it was possible during
Right.
that time because that was my season of stillness. And right now I realize my season of acceleration might look like being able to facilitate and delegate in academia and take another job, but also have that freedom to pour into my kiddo. I get to spend time with him every day. I get to teach him every day. We get to sit down and have dinner together every day. And like you said, I'm not worried about what some man wants for dinner. It's my kid who one day loves rice and hates chicken, and the next day loves chicken and hates rice, right? So we're going through that season of learning each other and me really being able to pour into him as I'm also being able to still maintain that professional success, but understanding that it ebbs and it flows in terms of what energy I'm putting into certain things on certain days.
Yeah. So when you have like those seasons of acceleration, how do you stay, grounded with God? Like what brings you back to center or brings you back to, how do you make sure you get your prayer time in and you just kind of like, stay spiritually grounded?
So I have this devotional called Jesus Calling that I use literally every day. I have worn this book out because it's
I
a
have it
daily
too.
devotional book.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
literally I start every
what's
day
great
with that.
and what you might love too, they have a kids one.
No.
It's her, it's really her, and it's the same author, everything, and it's a kid. I just bought it for Piper, so That's our thing. We read her devotional every day. She loves it. Yes.
Goodness, let me get on Amazon. As soon as we get off this call,
Yes.
I'm going to find that because that
Yes.
definitely is what helps ground me. I start every day with that. It wasn't until more recently that I started reading it with one of my good friends that she told me, they have the scriptures at the bottom. She goes and looks up the scriptures and reads and
Yeah,
reflects
me
on that. I was
too.
like, girl,
Yeah,
I used to just read the devotional. So now I use
yeah.
that as a way to really just ground myself and to continue checking. And they are, I don't know if you found this to be true, but I know that certain things, like during the season of Thanksgiving, there was like a 5-day series on being thankful, but other times it'll just be literally, I'm like, how did she know that this was going to be relevant right now for me today? It always, for
Yeah.
me, is really grounding. I always find new meaning out of different scriptures. Psalm 37 and 4 for me has been one that I continue to reflect on in terms of, well, I say reflect on it. I'll say that my understanding of it has transformed recently. It's the passage that said, delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. And I used to
Mm-hmm.
always read it like, Lord, I'm delighting myself in you. Give me these things that I desire. What's up? Fulfill these things. Like he was some
It
genie
comes
about to
really
grant
like
me
he
these
changes
things.
your heart.
If he changes your heart to match what he has desired for you, and now I'm asking him
Mm-hmm.
like, yes, give me the desires that you would have for me. So if it's a time for me to be still, let me desire those things. If it's a time for me to, grind it out and accelerate right now, let me be encouraged and reinvigorated and motivated by this work. And if I find again that it's draining or that I'm feeling burnt out, I'm going to know that because I'm checking in with him literally, not just every day, but in every moment. Lord God, direct my footsteps, direct my tongue, direct my fingers as I'm typing this email. I'm going to know, right? Like, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable saying yes to this. Maybe I need to
Yeah.
pass this on to somebody else, right?
Mhm.
For me, just that constant check in is what keeps me grounded and what keeps me feeling like, okay, I'm able to go with the ebbs and the flow because my heart's going to change in any moment, right? Like, my feelings gonna change just based on something somebody said to me this morning, or oh my god, this man decided to text me. Why he checking in now? He didn't check in, so right, like, let me just give it to God and figure out how I should move in these moments. And that for me has been the most grounding throughout. Everything else that's fluctuating. I feel like my baseline, as long as I return back to Him, my baseline just remains constant.
Yeah, and I've been kind of doing that as well. I've been really tapping in with the Holy Spirit more. I'm reading this book by Benny Hinn called Good Morning, Holy Spirit. And it really put it into a new perspective for me. Because, we always learn about the Trinity, God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. But I don't think that, well, especially me personally, I can speak of it, never really realized like, and the Bible even tells you that, and I love Bible, and I'm like such a Bible reader that He literally left His Spirit with us. So like you have Holy Spirit, He's walking with you. It's not just something like a feeling or anything like that. It's really like your help. He left His power here with us to be able to function. So I think for me, my new prayer in the morning has been, Holy Spirit, get in my mind before I do. Like
Ooh,
you
yes,
get in
yes.
my
Take up the
mind
space.
before I, because if I get in there first, I we don't know what's gonna happen, And when we've seen what will happen, honestly, if I get there first. So beat me to it, So that's
Yes,
kind of been
yes.
where I've been to keep myself grounded. Just kind of like taking it slow a little bit, just a little slower here lately, And it's crazy though. Now that I've become more busy, I've been taking it a little bit slower in ways, just getting more organized, doing what I can, not feeling overwhelmed, going to bed earlier, waking up a little bit earlier, but making sure I get certain things in, like making sure I still take care of myself. I still sit in the morning, have my tea before I take Piper to school and just stuff like that. So yeah, it kind of seems hard, and I've been on myself a little bit more about it because like I said, I work with church a lot, so I don't want to be doing all the works of God and not have that intimacy with Him, like getting so busy doing all the things, but I forget Him, because I feel like, because you can get, and I've been in that, but you can get to a place where it's like, oh, well, I'm doing so much great things, I'm doing so much good, so God has to see that, like it has to be okay, which nothing that's not okay, and he doesn't see that, but he would rather you just spend the time, rather you take those moments to just
Yeah.
be, because if you're always talking, always doing things, how do you have the time to hear him? How do you have the time to not only to hear him, but just look around and see like, oh, this is happening, that's happening, kind of like get an idea of what he's doing with and around you. So yeah, it gets hard and it gets tough for sure. It's hard to do it, but and like you just have to be this has been a season of obedience for me, I believe. Like just doing what I'm supposed to be doing, like my pastor, well, my pastor who's also my mentor, she gave me an assignment to write down, make a chart of what God said to do versus what I'm doing. And it kind of was like, well, okay.
Calling me disobedient.
Yeah, because I was just talking to her about like just the stuff and like my business and things like that. And it's like I've kind of like
Yeah.
altered the way I'm doing certain things. It's like, okay, well, I can't do that. That's too big right now. So I'm gonna just do this instead. And it's like that might seem easier, but that ain't what God told you to do. God told you to do the big thing. So even the smaller thing is not working as great because that ain't what God told you to do,
Not what he
like
told you to do. Wow.
it's all he told you to do. So, and we're reading another book too. It's called The Emotionally Healthy Leader, and emotionally healthy spiritually as a leader or whatnot. And I read the book, the emotionally healthy spiritually by itself, plus the leadership book, and reading that too, it gave me a new perspective on Moses not making it to the promised land. Like that was always one of my like Bible beefs, kind of, because it's like, God, you had him bring all these people out of Egypt. He did this, he did that, and you didn't let him go to the promised land. Like what? And I got it. I had always understood it because it's like, okay, it's God. I understand his ways are higher than our ways. We can't rationalize, what God does. But I never really had like a full understanding of it until I was reading this book, and the book broke it down a little bit different, like how um in the Bible where how at one point Moses had struck the rock and it drew the water from the rock while him just like striking it. And then there was another time when God told him to speak to the rock, and out of his frustration he struck it, and he still got water out of it, but that's not what God told him to do. So you can get results still but not be in alignment with what God told you to do. And when I kind of looked at it like that, I was like, huh, I see why you didn't go, because like he didn't, God didn't leave you, because when Jesus went to the hill of transfiguration, you came down still, so you were still with God. He still took you up with him, but you didn't get to the promised land. What you really worked for, what you had delivered all these people into, and where you were supposed to take your people and lead them into, like you didn't make it to the. So I'm like, so then after I read that time, I'm like, well, I ain't gonna miss my promise.
Let me listen. Let me listen.
Let
Yeah.
me not, yeah, because it's just like when you have something big to do, like I had their kind of like revelations, like maybe I'm not asking big enough. Like we serve a big God, so why can't I do the big thing? Like, and then when because we have to be honest, not everybody serves God. Not everybody serves the same God, the true God. So I'm not supposed to go through it the same way everybody else does, because I have someone on my side who does all things and created all things. So yeah, that might seem big to somebody else, but I got backup, so kind of breaking that down. Before I even got started on the assignment, I was like, I already see where you're trying to get me. Yeah, like I already.
Saying recently, like, show me how good it can get. But that also means,
Mhm.
right, like in some cases, I'm gonna have to do a little more work to get how good it can get. When he does show you, like, I'm looking at myself like, you worked for so many decades to stop working. How did you end up in a whole new job? How do you have two jobs at the same time? And that's because where you at to see how good it can get. But I'm realizing like remote jobs don't exist anymore. He put you in a really good position to where, yes, you do have two jobs, but you're able to do twice the amount of work in half the time in some cases. Because I was smiling as you were talking about forcing yourself to pause in some cases. And I know earlier we were talking about our kiddos and co-sleeping, and Roman right now forces me, yeah, despite how good it can get, baby, and how much work you've been called to do, it's eight
I'm going to
o'clock. Come
bed.
on, lay down in this bed. Put your arm out, right? Like we're going to sleep. Whereas usually I'll try to sneak out and come back to my computer and do some work after dark. No, baby, you're going to bed. And not only that, get this light out my face. Turn that phone off. He will literally take my phone and put it down. And I'm like, okay, I need some quiet time with you. I need some
Yeah.
quiet time with the Lord. And by the time I know it, I'm going to sleep too. My new bedtime is 8 p.m., which is so bizarre to me, but that's what I need in this season. And baby, we go to
Yeah.
bed. And it's because, right, I'm being obedient and I'm listening. And now instead of working after dark, I'm able to have those moments of silent reflection, of prayer, of meditation, of just sometimes I just lay in bed and just count my blessings and just give God thanks. And it's
Yeah.
so much more beautiful than let me sneak out this bed and go do this work, or let me listen to this podcast, or watch this video on YouTube. Turn your phone off,
Turn
literally
your
put
phone
your
off.
phone down.
Yes.
And I thank God for him, and I thank God for being in this position that I am in now, because like you just said, Piper's 4, Romans 2, and one day soon they're not going to want to sleep with us, and we're not going to have these
Yeah.
opportunities anymore. So I'm just really thankful for even that pause at the end of each day.
Yeah. Because, like you said, like it won't happen forever. What I realized too, and you probably do too, is becoming a new mom, is that how, like, I feel like God uses our children to almost like show us how he's a father to us. Like it's been so many times I've said things to her and gotten like convicted in the moment and like hear God being like, okay. Cause like I remember one day in particular, she was fussing about something. I was trying to, you know how it is with your kids. Then they can ask you to say, Mommy, I want to go to the park. On the way to the park, they're mad you're not already at the park. Or when you get there, they're
We're
mad
putting
because
your shoes on to go to the park and you're fussing. Like, do you not want to go where I said we were going?
like I'm trying to do the things. Like I'm literally just I'm doing it. And in a moment, something like that, I had said to her, I had said to her, I was like, listen, if you would just slow down and realize I'm trying to give you something great, you would. And I was like, like God,
Let me start rushing God because he's already doing what I asked him for. And here I am
yeah.
fussing,
I was
like,
like, if you would just
why
sit
aren't we
down.
at the park?
Yeah, like if you would sit down and realize, because I was trying to take her, she asked for something, and I had like a whole thing planned. Like I'm like, you're gonna love this, sis. And I'm like, if you would just sit down and realize that I'm trying to give you something great, then you will understand. Like, and I was like, okay, I hear you, guys. Like I hear you in that
You
moment.
got
Like
me
I
there. Yeah.
you got one on me there. So just kind of
Hmm.
those moments, I think, like yeah, like being a parent for sure, like shows me how you have to like approach God as the father sometimes, and like, hey, dad, this is where we're at, like being honest, and it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be upset or even sometimes disappointed, even though we know whatever he has planned for us is better, we are still emotional people. You it's okay, it's going to be better, but you got to feel your feelings. You got to feel your feelings in that moment doing that. But I like how you was talking about how you can't always just do nothing in your rush. You realize you have to like actually get some work done, because I think sometimes I've experienced and witnessed people who like sometimes like lean in too much almost. You have to. That's what my pastor talks to me as well. She's very big on doing the practical things. Like you can't ask God to bless your business. You don't even have a LLC. You're asking God
Right.
to
Ooh,
give you financing for your business. You don't even have a business bank account yet. Or you're asking for, yeah,
the work behind this faith that you have. Yes.
yeah, like faith without works is dead. The Bible tells you. So having to do the practical things, and you have to find that balance, I think, though, like, and how do you do it? So how do you find the balance between I'm doing it all and letting God do it?
Be done. Like, for example, if I'm called to start a business and I know that I need an LLC, I need to go to the Secretary of State, I need to file these things, I'll ask myself, what is it on my to do list that only I can do? And those
Mm-hmm.
are the things that I do. And then if it's something else that somebody else can do, baby, I love, love, love to delegate. I love to just give it to somebody else, give it to somebody else. It's still on my to do list, and I'm not going to check it off until you tell me you've done it. But while it's on my to do list, I know that it's in somebody else's hands. And, most of the times it's somebody who I've trained, so I'm able to trust them. But other times I just have to ask God for discernment. Show me who I can ask to do this. Show me somebody who's called and equipped to be able to do this work. Or give me the energy and show me how, give me the wisdom to see how I can fit this in my schedule to get it done to where I'm not resentful, to where I'm not burnt out. Otherwise, right, I'm going to drop the ball. And I know that's not something that I'm called to do. So I literally just ask God for the strength or for the wisdom or the discernment, whatever it is that I need in the moment. And even when I realize, okay, you have to delegate, show me how to facilitate this delegation, because sometimes you give things to people and they don't know what to do and they don't know how to do
Right.
it, and you come back next week and they're like, oh, I had a question about that. Why didn't you ask me the question when you had the question? Now you asking me when it's due. So I've had to learn even as a mentor and to get
Mm-hmm.
wisdom even as a mentor, like, okay, God, you put this on my heart. How do I do this? And
Mm-hmm.
using that to show my students and to show my mentees, like, okay, if this is something that you've been assigned, do you know how to do it? What questions do you have? So I've had to change my leadership style from, just being very hands off of, here, y'all do these things, to, okay, let's make sure that I'm facilitating the process as well. And that might look like, I'm not going to lab meetings anymore. I'm not going to staff meetings anymore. But y'all CC me on the email that you send every week that debriefs everybody about what y'all talked about. Highlight any comments that you have for me, any questions or concerns, and then I make sure that I check in with myself and with them as well. So really, it's just a constant communication, right? I always say, like, I'm in a constant state of prayer. Me and God, we talking
Yeah,
24/7,
for
and that
sure.
for me has really been what allows me to continue learning, like, delegate, facilitate, let it go. I'm working on saying no. That's still something that's pretty hard for me. But right, learning those different things and those different skills that I need in each moment, and just asking for the discernment to get it done has really helped me.
So, I know we can talk all day, but just to kind of wrap up a little bit, but what would you name the season you're in right now? Would you name your season?
Look at me looking at my bookshelf and Michelle Obama. I really feel like it's a season of becoming. I
Mhm.
Like I said, I've always wanted to be a mom. Always, I always wanted to have a family in a certain way, and now I'm becoming that mom, and really living the life that I was meant to live, right? And walking into this position in the way that I was meant to. I talked about shaving my head. That was back in 2013. I had a loose natural for a while. Now I got a full hair of locks,
Yeah.
and I look in the
Yeah.
mirror some days and I'm like, still feel bald headed some days, and I still have to
Yeah.
call myself, like, my Instagram. One of my Instagram names, I call myself Young Rapunzel, because when I first got my locks were like this long and they were scraggly, like little starter locks. And I used to say they
Yeah.
were 8 feet long. And now I look in the mirror and I'm like, no, baby, your hair is actually long. Like,
There's
you are becoming that
yeah.
person who you used to imagine, and you look good. You're doing the work. The work is good. Like, your outcomes are really good. My kid, my kid is so beautiful. He's so smart. He's so happy. I checked in on him at daycare the other day, and his teacher said he never has a bad day.
I
And
love
for
that.
me, that just really made me realize, like, no, I am becoming the mother that I've always wanted to be, the professional that I've always wanted to be. I'm looking the way I've always wanted to look.
Hmm.
I'm healthy in the ways that I've always wanted to be healthy. So I really think that my season right now is just becoming and enjoying all those things that I've worked for, and really seeing the manifestation that is literally so much better than I ever imagined. Like,
Yeah.
I was thinking so small. I think back now and I'm like, girl, you were about to settle so
Okay,
many
so
times. So many times. I'm so glad I didn't. So definitely just becoming and enjoying the where I am now, and really just being satisfied in that and fulfilled in that, really.
yeah, and I think too, like I'm getting rid, like I said, like thinking about how things are just so much better than what you imagine, and like how you were thinking so
Yeah.
small, and I'm getting
Yeah.
to that more and more, like as I see how things are like kind of unfolding. Because for me, I think I'm in a season of
Mm.
alignment. Like I'm in a
Wow.
season of like I had went through like a pruning season where it was just like it was just,
Shedding and
yeah,
yeah,
shedding and then a little isolation and things like that. But now I am really like in, I think, a season of alignment, like really get into align and really, seeing, calling things in that aren't yet as they are, like the Bible tells us to do.
mhm,
I see where it's going, and even things, seeing the joy and stuff.
mm,
Now, he said, like, we're great moms. We enjoy being moms. There's a thing about it too. Like, I think it's perfect now, and I can definitely tell you can relate. Like, I wanted to be a mom. Like, and
yeah,
for me, it's the same
definitely.
thing. Like I say, I'll try to put this delicately, but I think a lot of difference. Well, I'm not, and I think people would think it's something that is like, not a good thing to say, but I think it's more. We want you to think that more people like us than you would think, that it wasn't. We wanted to be moms more so than having the man. Like, I wanted a family, of course, but it wasn't me being a mom wasn't determined on how it turned out with the other person. Like, that wasn't, yeah. So I sometimes you can, if
Yeah.
you get caught up on that side of it, you can, not saying that being a single mom is not hard, because it is tough in itself, like it's a daily, like, whew. But when you have that peace about it, and it's kind of
Mhm.
like, this is what I wanted. I have my child. My child, like I said, is happy, healthy, smart. Like, she's the best girl. She has the best personality. And it's so funny because I'm a little bit introverted. That's why I'm in a season of obedience, because this whole thing here is not what I want to do. But God was like, yeah, I want you to start talking to other moms and, have a little platform and doing
Wow.
this. Like, that's so against my personality, honestly. Like, the last thing I would want to do each time I post this, I'm like, oh Jesus, I don't want to do this, So
Wow.
but it's like, it's kind of, I think that even if I reach two women or 10 or however much, it's like just seeing that someone else hears you, someone else sees you, you're not in it by yourself, the same things you go through, no matter how high or low you are in life, your baseline is being a mom. And there are certain things as being a mom that we can't escape. We can't escape the tantrums, no matter what you have versus what you don't have. You can't escape the tantrums. You can't escape the long nights, the sick days. Like, you can't escape that. But when you realize that, you have God's covering and everything, that, it kind of makes it a little bit better. It makes it not a little bit, it makes it a lot better. And just having like that day to day, like you said, it's sometimes being grateful, like laying in night in your bed and realize, like, wow, we got a nice little life here, like, this is really good, this is really good. Like, it's not everything I wanted or might even want in the moment, but it's good, it's really good. So, what's what is some encouragement you would give to somebody who feels like they're maybe stuck in between seasons?
I just say hold tight. In between season, and I say that we're becoming, I imagine that, right, we're in bloom, we haven't fully blossomed, we're not living, we are living up to our fullest potential, but there's still more to come. I'm always expectant of more to come, like hopeful anticipation, I call it, and that's because of God's promises that he's made to us. So somebody who feels like, okay, maybe you're not yet blooming, maybe you're still in the dirt, maybe it's still dark under there, and you're waiting for that next step, but stay in hopeful anticipation and know that you're not a seed that's going to die. God has planted something in you, whatever that may be, will be better than you can imagine. You will become, you will bloom, you will fully blossom, you will bear fruit, even, right? For some people, just depending on what it is that you're waiting for. And know that even the way that looks isn't going to be what you imagine, but it's going to be better than you've imagined. That for me has been so comforting in that, wow, if God's closing a door, baby, that means he's about to open an even more beautiful one. So just thank him
Mhm.
for not allowing you to settle. Thank you for keeping you buried just a little bit longer so that you can bloom more fully when that time comes. So anyone who feels like, okay, I'm stuck or I'm waiting, just know that you're going to bloom eventually. You have not been buried, you've been planted. I do think that that is always, always so true. Even if you are surrounded by dirt, right? It's just the way that you think about it, and right? Something greater is definitely coming.
Yeah. Well, last question that I was gonna have, but I think you kind of already answered it. But kind of go back, what is like your anchor verse right now that you're kind of, that's leading you more, you're sticking with? I know you say you were into like Psalm 34 was
Psalm
one.
37 and 4.
37.
Yeah. So I will also say, okay. So for real. So I will say that Psalm 37 and 4 is the one that has really changed my mind lately. But the
Mhm.
one that has changed my life lately, my kid is named Roman. So of
Mhm.
course, Romans 8:28 is the one that really, really, really has just grounded me so much in that I know that delighting myself in the Lord, that all of his promises are going to come to fruition. That if I'm leading according to his promise, it is going to be guaranteed to be beautiful. And for me, that has just forget about my desires and my pleasure and anything that I'm looking forward to. Like, God has it figured out. I can also talk about Jeremiah 28, 9 and 11, but I don't have a little boy named Jeremiah yet.
Right.
Roman and Romans 8:28 definitely has just changed my life so greatly because literally every day is more beautiful than it would have been had it been according to what I had seen for myself.
No, that is true. That is so very, very true. And yeah, like you said, it just gets better. And when you stay grounded with God and you just let Him kind of like, it's about being obedient and being under submission for real, and just realizing like,
Ooh, submit.
I have to just like I can't do this on my own, and you're not meant to do it on your own. It's a whole you're not. That's the thing. You're not meant to do it by yourself. So it's yeah, like you said, becoming season of alignment. Like we need different seasons. To, like you were saying earlier, how you think about it, like actual seasons too. Like a year has 4 seasons, so you're not supposed to be in the same season your whole life, or even the whole year, or even the whole month. Sometimes, it seasons change, and each season has its great things, like summer's hot and beautiful, fall is cool, the leaves are beautiful, wintertime, depending on where you live, it's cold, but you might get some beautiful snow. It just
Yeah.
has everything comes together. I'm so glad we
Ooh,
got to do this.
all things will work
All
out for
things
our
come
good. Yes.
together, yes, for those
Literally, I have to remind myself that God didn't say some things.
all
8:28 says
things,
all things, literally, even those things that you
all
think
things.
are harming you or so hard right now. Things, and I'll remind him I'm good for talking to God like, hey, bro, you said all things. Make
I love
this
when you,
work out
I love when
according
you
to your
said
plan and
prayer.
greater.
Yeah, I love when you said prayer. I'm always like, you said, like,
Yes,
it's in the book. You said that, like, I
yes,
love, like, you're
yes,
reminding him of his word. Like, you said now. And,
definitely.
yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely works. Well, I am so glad we got to finally do this. This was such a great conversation. And
Listen, the listeners do not know. And again, the timing will always be perfect. But baby, the way we tried and tried,
we,
and something happened with Roman, and something happened with y'all, and the holidays was coming up. Like, this thing has been a long time coming, but I think that
but
this
that's
is
life and that's
the
motherhood,
perfect timing. Yes, I'm so glad we got to have this conversation.
Yes, this life and this motherhood. So, yeah, so thank you, Dr. Aisha, for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for listening and maybe even watching. And I will see you guys next time.
Thank you. Thank you for going where you were called and for being obedient. This has been a very illuminating conversation. I was even talking to a mutual friend that we have, Gretchen, before this and complaining about my baby dad. And I said, look at the timing of this. I needed this conversation to just reset me and get my mindset right and to
Yeah.
refocus on gratitude because
Yes.
it's so important. And literally that reminder that all things are working out. And you taken me from just having academic talks to right again regrounding myself in
Hmm.
my purpose and reminding myself. So thank you for going where you're called and doing those big things that even as an introvert you don't necessarily want to do. But
Yeah.
this was a great
Like,
conversation and I appreciate you for
sometimes
that.
I don't. Yeah, I appreciate that. So, yeah, I think as this thing grows, maybe it'll be other, well, I mean, after I record, we'll probably talk for a second anyway, still. But I think as this grows, it might be different avenues where moms like us can get together and just like have conversations. I think like that's what kind of
It's
what the
so
goal is,
important.
have conversations, because I think they're important, and community is important. What I realized, because as an introvert as well, I've realized that community is important, and God gives you people. God always
Mhm.
gives you people.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate everybody for watching and listening, and I will see you all next time.
Bye guys.